And so we're still going to go around real quickly in the room to introduce ourselves. So, and I'll start with welcoming everyone to the 14th annual celebration of the founding of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund Support Group meeting. The support group is the signature program of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund. We were founded in April 2010, and we started this wonderful program at the time before it became a full-fledged organization in 2012 as a support group with less than 10 people. And over the years, we have had right here in this space, St. Augustine's Episcopal Church, as high as 40 members or participants at a meeting, and on Zoom, which we pivoted to in March of 2020, we've had more than 100 people on the Zoom. We are pleased to have all of you here, both on Zoom, Facebook Live, and a wonderful group here in person. We want to thank all of our distinguished speakers and panelist members who will be introduced later on by our moderator and facilitator, who is Dr. Carla D. Williams of Howard University. And also, I want to thank some of our special guests here. We have Isaac Wells. Isaac is helping us with writing up our support group meetings, and at your chair or seat is an article in the Southwest, the front page no less, which Isaac wrote, and he's going to be writing up the meeting tonight. All of us, our distinguished guests, will be introduced. Let me just also say that one of the many things that I'm proud of about our support group is that it is modeled after a wonderful support group meeting that was at the World Bank. It was a support group of the World Bank, IMF, or International Monetary Fund, that was co-founded by Lorraine Nagy, a wonderful former colleague of mine at the World Bank. As many of you may recall, I retired from the World Bank after more than 33 years. And it was colleagues like Lorraine who made my life at the World Bank, those more than 33 years, worthwhile. And so Lorraine will do opening remarks shortly. But again, I want to thank all of you for being here and for the work that you have been doing individually and collectively in helping to carry out the mission and vision of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund. Our mission is to improve the overall health and well-being of men, of women, men, and young and children, young girls especially, because we're noticing that breast cancer is occurring at an earlier age, to help improve the overall health and wellness. And we do this through outreach, education, and support to help to reduce the incidence and mortality rates of breast cancer. And our vision is to embrace and achieve a world free of breast cancer. Our organization or support group was started in part because of my diagnosis in 2007 with a rare, aggressive, and a late stage of breast cancer, HER2 positive. And from that experience, I decided that it was something that I needed to do to help others to walk their journey. And two of the important things that this organization really believes in and carries a message that early detection saves lives, and it helps to, or it creates better outcomes, not just for the survivor, but because a breast cancer diagnosis or any cancer diagnosis normally affects a lot of other people, family members, colleagues, neighbors. So it helps to achieve better outcomes for all of those that are affected. And the second message, in addition to early detection, is that we believe that no one should walk or travel their journey alone. I was very, very blessed to have a wide network support system, and I still have that now. So I feel that it is important that I share the goodness and the blessings that I've had and continue to have throughout my journey. So at this point, I will stop and I will turn it over to our moderator and facilitator, Dr. Carla D. Williams, who is the interim director of Howard University Cancer Center. And I might add that Howard University Cancer Center was our first major community partner and Cancer City Center, almost from the inception of our support group. And we remain very closely tied at the hips with the Howard University Cancer Center. So thank you so much, Carla, for being here, probably about the 20th time or more.
Right, but I have to keep track, so when I hit my 20th, we can have But thank you, as always, Thelma, for inviting me to be part of this wonderful group and activities that you bring to make sure, as you say, that no one feels like they have to walk the journey alone. And I think tonight we'll talk with some people who have walked the journey and understand that there's lots of different ways to be supported. But I want to especially thank Thelma for these 14 years of actually supporting women and any individual who's been impacted by breast cancer. So if we want to go ahead with the program, we're going to start with an opening prayer. And that will be delivered by Mark Colbert, who is a
Colbert. I am a seminarian here at St. Augustine. Just a few things about St. Augustine, that we are one of the few Episcopal churches in this area with a relatively new building, I think within the past 7 years. We also have a outreach program that feeds ministry. That's our Food for Life program here. We have our normal services that we would all like you to attend at 9:30. And we also have an evening prayer service on Zoom that starts at 6:30. So with all that being said, let's bow our head and give our thanks to God. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the work that is being done. We thank you for those people who don't have voices for themselves, who are allowed to speak up. We thank you for all your gracious good that you have done for this world, and continue in the work that you have given these people to do. Let us bless them and praise them in your name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Is the Staff Association Health Advocate and the co-founder of the World Bank Group IMF Breast Cancer Support Group, as Thelma indicated, which Thelma Jones Breast Cancer Support Group is mine. So thank you for joining us, Lorraine, and we welcome you.
Well, thank you. I wish I could be in person, but as we get older, our responsibilities grow in terms of family obligations. But thank you for this opportunity. I was especially, I've written up a history of our breast cancer support group, but I was very, very touched by the refrain that is being said here, and that is that we cannot do this alone. We need each other. There needs to be a sense of family support, or a sacred circle that is surrounding you. And I can remember from the very beginning, which is where we're talking about the year 2000, actually it was 1999 when the survey went out. And in the survey, those women, brave women from the World Bank, wrote in and said, thank you for the survey on mammography utilization. What are the promoters and what are the barriers? A master's degree thesis, very interesting. But perhaps you're missing something. And that is that there are breast cancer survivors in the bank, and we need each other. My name is, this is my email. Please call us together. If there are any others and that have identified themselves, we want to get into a conference room. We want to talk to one another. And part of the reason why one was needed at the bank, because there are other support groups in hospitals and in various, is that these were women who had their families thousands of miles away. They were in a medical system, getting care in a medical system that was foreign to them. They needed a family. They needed to be brought together and to have that, to help one another and to have that feeling that somebody was behind them besides just those who are dealing with them clinically. So that's really the beginning. A survey looking for information about what it is that promotes mammography and what is it that would hold people back. And interestingly enough, even though my hypothesis is that there would be differences by nationality, et cetera, by, place of, home country and all of that. None of that was what differentiated a woman's choice. What she really was focused on, the one powerful indicator, was she felt that her family would benefit. In other words, my life is important. It's important to me, but it's important to others. By having a mammogram, I am with my family. So again, you get that feeling of love, that feeling of that need for community to be around you. Now, I had never led a support group. I'm a nurse, but I had never led a support group. And of course, I made a path to the psychologists and the social workers and said, here's a support group, needs to start, your job. And they said, no, that's not our job. We're not going to do it. And I thought, well, now what? Now I needed support. And there was in the clinic a very, very special woman named Bonnie Chisholm, the co-founder of the breast cancer support group, a staunch advocate, a breast cancer survivor herself. And I said, Bonnie, I'm going to walk into a room full of women. I know very little at this point. They want to have a monthly support group. Where are we? And she began that partnership with me. We entered the room just as Thelma was saying, maybe 10 people. For us, it was 5. And among those 5, it grew over a 15-year period to more than 100 people, 100 women, and men and women, and including, in other countries. It included spouses, but it included country office staff. And I'm still in touch with them. It's very interesting that all these years I'm still in touch with them. And the purpose of it was to give mutual support, but also information. There was so much that when you're faced with a diagnosis, and you put your trust in the medical system, but strange terminology, scary scenarios, learning some of the biology and the chemistry and all of the new things that are coming out. And it's very frightening when you simply say, well, do unto me, instead of saying, I have a question. I need to know more. Tell me. And for that, we needed, again, each other's experience. But we also needed experts to come in, just as is with your support group. And these experts would come in and they would give lectures. They would give sometimes a referral, references, so that as women grew in survivorship, they grew in confidence with one another. So knowledge is really the power behind it here. So women could say, I want, say, breast sparing surgery. I want neoadjuvant. I want whatever it is. And they became partners in their own care. And as new developments were there, one of us would go to the San Antonio Breast Cancer, conference every year. We would bring that back. And that knowledge became the community's knowledge. So anyway, that is how we started. And we were about 7 years in when Thelma knocked on my door one time and said, I'm Thelma Jones from Community Connections. And I knew a lot about Community Connections, a very, very important organization that raises charity for people all over the world. And the mastermind behind that was Thelma. And Thelma revealed to me that she had just received this diagnosis of breast cancer and knew that she was going to go through tremendous series of treatments. It was going to be very difficult. But what she expressed to me at that time was, I'm going to get through this. Because of mammography, because of my access to care, all of that, I have advantages that other people don't. And when I'm finished with this, I will establish my own within my own community. Which of course she did, by 2010, it was on its way. But even within our community, as soon as she came in, we went from being a monthly group that just met and educated, we did good work, but she realized that the institution needed to wake up. We needed support from the highest levels of the bank. We needed conferences within the bank headquarters where others who don't know of our support group could come together and become educated. What she had learned by being a community organizer, basically, in Community Connections over decades, she focused it on the bank community. So just as she was starting a support group for her own community, she was changing the whole dynamic of our own group and maintained that until really we had to disband because of retirement, et cetera. So I wanted to acknowledge that for her and also to realize that what goals she is enunciating here, which is, we're looking at, again, what are we looking at? We're looking at a cure. But we also have to acknowledge that one of the reasons why we have to be active is that we are living in the DMV area, which for reasons nobody completely understands. All they can do is read the statistics, but it is I think it's the highest, if not one of the highest rates of breast cancer incidence and mortality in the entire United States. So in a population at that much risk, the earliest detection possible, knowledge of the latest treatment, access to care is essentially life-saving. So for every meeting and for every activity, a life can be saved in a population that really needs this education and support. So I commend you on that. And If I can answer any questions about our group and what, what we did and what we accomplished or lessons learned, I'd be happy. I did write up, an article that hopefully I'll be able to share with you, but I wanted to just talk with you and answer any questions that you might have. That's it. And that's enough for me for now. I've been talking a long time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. We're just getting organized here. I applaud Thelma for managing this hybrid interactive activity. So I guess we're okay with the volume for those that are online. So again, thank you, Lorraine. I did not give Lorraine's full name. It's Lorraine Lynch-Navy, and thank you again for. Thank you again for joining us and sharing that important history. And thank you for so much work that you did for the World Bank as kind of a backdrop to what we're doing here today. So even though the group disbanded, what was learned and developed there lives on through Thelma B. Jones Breast Cancer Fund Support Group.
I didn't know I did that. I'd done that one.
So now we're going to have some greetings from a colleague and friend who's sitting here with me, Dr. Alejandra Duerto Mendoza. And I've known Alejandra as a faculty member for several years at Georgetown University. Some of her research has really informed how we make sure that women from various walks of life, but especially the Latina community, has optimal care and optimal support through their breast cancer journey. So Alejandra and I have been in rooms together around many issues, but oftentimes we come together for Thelma's programs, and so it's an honor to be sitting next to you again today or tonight, Alejandra, and we just welcome you to bring some greetings to our audience.
Thank you very much. It is an honor for me to be here with everyone, especially for this occasion of the 14th anniversary. And it's also a moment to me it's like a cycle, because just realized that this was the first place where I came for the support group meeting. I think I have shared this story in the past. I had just started working in cancer research. I was pregnant for my first child, and I was trying to organize a focus group, happened to call Ms. Jones without knowing her, and like she was so generous to invite me to come to one of these focus groups. And I was so touched to be here and to learn about the support group and like the stories and the support that this group provides through all the phases of the journeys. And then I also learned about Ms. Jones' capacity for mobilizing the community and for engaging everyone in research. So I was meant to organize one focus group. It ended up being two because there were so many people who wanted to participate. So we organized to one of them. I remember we didn't even fit in the room. It was like 14 participants. And then the second one was when I was going to a medical appointment. I had it in the afternoon, and then in the doctor, they told me, no, you're not leaving the hospital. Like, you have to deliver the baby. And I'm like, but I have a focus group that we've been organizing for 2 months. And they're like, no. It's like, what did you have for breakfast? Because you are having the baby. When I told what I had for breakfast, it was like bagels and salmon and fruit. They're like, okay, we'll wait. And then I delivered exactly at the same time that the focus group. So I received calls from participants because they were lost, and I was like, okay, I don't know what to deliver the baby. So anyways, this time I'm gonna silence my phone. But since then, that was 8 years ago, I have the privilege of working with Ms. Jones in so many different projects, including acupressure, peer support, intervention, COVID-19 website that we developed together. We have also working projects to enhance screening for mammography, also hereditary breast and ovarian cancer. So it's been many different projects. And I can't stress enough how the contribution of Ms. Jones has been instrumental in developing all these projects, like, throughout all the phases of research, providing your insights, making sure that research is responsive to the community, that it's impactful. Sometimes that has meant going back to the drawing board and thinking, okay, this doesn't make sense. Let's like rethink the whole project. And I can, I don't have enough words to appreciate. And I think that throughout all these partnership, throughout our common goal of reducing cancer disparities, we have developed this beautiful friendship. And throughout these years, I'm extremely grateful to be here again. And I think also in the more personal level, my grandma had 3 cancers and she survived them all. Like, she was a very strong woman, but the few times where I saw her scared was when she was thinking about cancer recurrence. In these 8 years, my mother got diagnosed with cervical cancer, my dad with colon cancer, a very, very close friend with breast cancer. And I've always thought, I wish they could have access to this support group, because I've witnessed like how important it is for everybody who's walking through the journey. So I want to thank you for all the work that you do, for being a role model and an inspiration for all of us and for connecting us. And it's just a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandra.
If I could just make a comment to Alejandra's remarks. I mentioned earlier that we've expanded, or at least I meant to mention that we are, thanks to Zoom, we've been in nearly 20 states in the United States and 6 countries throughout the world. It is because of Alejandra, who has spoken to us from Spain and Guatemala, where the time difference is hours away, but she stayed up to speak to our support group. And as she said, we've developed a friendship, and through the friendship, her parents have become special in my life as well. And her mom, who is in civil rights in Guatemala, has also spoken at our support group meetings from Guatemala. And I think one of the things that I remember well about her speaking was her saying that her daughter tells her everything about the work that we are doing here that she can share. So our impact is having far-reaching effects that we probably don't even know about. So please give my regards to your family, particularly your mother.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And let me thank you again for being, bringing a soul and a spirit to science. So, you know, my first hat that I probably wear is as a scientist, even though it's in health sciences and behavior. But if we don't really know what science means to people, then it doesn't really bring any value. And I can really say that the work that Alejandra does really brings the value of science in real ways to real communities. So thank you so much for what you do. So now I think we have a musical rendition. And I think I see Cecily, and she is well known in the DC region and beyond, but I've always enjoyed seeing her at Thelma's events, and she's so gracious with her time and talent. So Cecily is a vocalist, a songwriter, as well as a voice instructor. So make note of that. You can make use of her services. And we're so pleased that she had time to join us tonight, and she will bring her own musical rendition for us at this point in the program. Okay. And believe are you gonna do one now and one later? Yes. Okay, and Cecily will be bringing two offerings to us tonight. One, A Flower in Winter, and then the other, Acceptance, and she'll bring those to us throughout the evening. Thank you so much, Cecily.
Put you on the guest list. All right, this first song I'm gonna do is called A Flower in Winter, and this is my newest single. It came out just last month. And the song is about the healing that we do as a community. the quote that inspired this song is from Bell Hooks, feminist writer Bell Hooks, and she said, "Rarely, if ever, do we heal in isolation. Healing is an act of communion." So I thought that that represents exactly what the support group has been for the last 14 years. And this is A Flower in Winter. Like a flower in winter, soft touch of spring, breath of relief, a new song to sing. If you hold me just like that, I think I can heal. Just tell me the truth that my mind won't hear. This moment is sacred, holy and real. This moment, you reminded me the joy I can feel, like a flower in winter, a soft touch of spring, breath of relief, a new song to sing. Like a flower in winter, soft touch of spring, breath of relief, a new song to sing. I've been fighting on my own, just trying to live. It's been so hard all alone, with no one to give. Oh, this moment has saved me, has made me alive. This moment, you reminded me that I can survive. Like a flower in winter, soft touch of spring, breath of relief, new song to sing. Like a flower in winter, soft touch of spring, breath of relief, a new song to sing. Thank you for my love that heals. Thank you, yeah. Thank you for our love that heals. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for our love that heals. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
that sets the perfect tone for the discussion. Idea of, healing in community. And I think that's really the power that support groups like this one bring, is finding a community that embraces you, supports you, educates and informs you, and most importantly, empowers you to be your own best advocate. And so tonight we are bringing the experts who have expertise in their lived experiences. And in the work that I do, we talk about the fact that we may have people who have expertise in surgery, expertise in certain aspects of medical care, but the expertise of someone who has the lived experience is equally important, and it really should inform everything else that occurs in our medical care and healthcare system. So tonight we have a group of experts that are going to join us for a brief panel discussion. We'll have some Q&A, some planned questions that will be queuing up for our panelists, but there will be some time for additional Q&A with the audience. So for those in the room, if you have questions as we're going along, I'll ask you to jot them down, and we will come around and have a discussion with those in the room. And if you are joining us by Zoom or on one of the other platforms, we will look out for your virtual questions and bring them into the room where we are tonight. So with that, I want to introduce our panelists, and I will introduce them each, and then we'll organize so that people online can see and hear everyone. So our first panelist is well known to Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund and Support Group, and it is Sherry Dinkinson Trott, JD. She is a Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund Support Group ambassador, a breast cancer survivor, and the co-founder of Happy on Wheels LLC. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Sherry. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Our second panelist is Ms. Sylvia Jackson. And Sylvia is another ambassador as well as a breast cancer survivor herself. And next, someone who's known to us very well, and if I mispronounce it, please correct me, Anthea Peters, also a breast cancer ambassador and survivor. And then we also have Ms. Scarlett Small, MPA, who's an ambassador, who has been a caregiver and a former member of the board of directors for the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund.
Thank you.
And our last panelist is someone who's always around and supporting, Miss Angie Walker, another ambassador who's always getting things done. It's a pleasure to know and see Angie at these events. And she's also not only an ambassador, a volunteer, but a survivor as well. So thank you all so much for joining us and bringing your expertise to the table tonight. So one moment, and I'm gonna kick us off with our first question for the panel. And we'll make it a little informal rather than me calling on each one. We just want people to chime in. So if you want to build on something that another panelist has shared, just feel free to chime in. So I'm just getting my questions queued up here, and we will get started. All right, so I'll just open this first question up to the entire panel. And as everyone, as I said, has their own lived experience and personal journey with breast cancer, we want to hear from you looking back. Your journey's far from over, but at this point where you are right now, if you look back, what do you wish you would know then? What do you wish you know now that you wish you had known when your journey started? So looking back, what is it that you know now that you wish you had known when your journey first started? Who wants to lead us off?
I'll lead off by saying, my name is Sherry, and the 14th anniversary of the Breast Cancer Fund coincides with my breast cancer anniversary, so it's easy to remember. What I wish I knew then, that I knew that now, is a really simple answer, that this support group existed. I am a quadriplegic, and there are not many individuals that are women with spinal cord injury that are also breast cancer survivors. So I felt very alone. And I think knowing that there was a support group, even if they didn't have people with spinal cord injuries, that I had people here that are in this room that have become best friends and family. And additionally, Thelma, it winds up, had a sister with a spinal cord injury. And she has a special interest and has a November meeting every year on breast cancer and disability. So if I had known that, I think I wouldn't have felt so alone in my journey. And she's connected me over the years. That November meeting has created connections for me that have just blown that area of my life wide open so I can help others. But for me, it's a very simple answer. Unfortunately, I had a lot of experience with the medical system. So I wasn't afraid to ask questions. I knew I needed other opinions. So the medical part wasn't as hard as the support part.
Thank you, Sherry, for sharing that. And we'll open it up to our other panelists, something that you know today that you wish you had known when your journey first began.
Well, I would like to just chime in on what Sherry spoke of. Just knowing that there was a Thelma D. Jones breast cancer group, that just brought a lot of just warmth to my heart, because I had no idea what I was going through or what was going to happen. But thankfully, going through the Georgetown Lombardi group, they connected me with Thelma, and that helped a lot. So just knowing that, and just being spread out to so much, and so many great friends, ambassadors, and entertainers, and all, has just brought a lot to me. And it just warmed me up a lot, where I feel secure, I feel good. And I know if someone comes up with anything, I'll run it by Thelma, and she doesn't mind sharing or reaching out to find out a helpful answer for me. So it's been great, and I enjoy every bit of it. Thank you.
Anybody want to add on to, and this could even be a book, what I know now that I wish I knew then. Anybody want to add a chapter? Yes.
Okay. What I learned was, at first, when I was initially diagnosed, that starts the journey. And I thought the journey would end when I was over with chemotherapy and all that, but the journey lives on. I think I'm on the second half, where, you know, I can meet friends. I mean, develop friendships with other ladies who've had breast cancer, and there's a bond that we all share that I don't share with all of my other friends. It's something about it that ties us all together, going through that journey. That's it. The journey continues.
I think that's an important thing for people to know at the beginning, that the journey continues in ways expected and
unexpected.
Unexpected, absolutely. Well, let's kind of switch gears a little bit and ask about just people to really share their experience, because sometimes I think in support groups, if we can hear things that we're experiencing reflected back from someone else, sometimes it's just so relieving to hear someone else say the words that maybe we didn't have the words to say. So we'd like to talk a bit just about the reaction
that you all as survivors had when you first heard the words, those horrible words, you have breast cancer. The diagnosis can be very overwhelming. But if anyone is willing and brave enough to share, what was your reaction when you heard those words, and realizing that many other people had the same reaction and just haven't had the opportunity to even verbalize it? So if anybody just wants to share, if you can think back what your reaction was.
I can say when I actually first felt my reaction. And I was not worried. I didn't cry, I didn't fall apart. I was just even keeled. It was a holiday weekend. And I was like, I have things to do this weekend, so we cannot worry about this. So we just carried on, did what we had to do that weekend. And I did not think about that lump until that Tuesday morning when I went to the doctor's office. So, but it took about a month, of course, of going through all the tests and making sure everything was confirmed, and the lumpectomy and the biopsies. And the day that the doctor called me in the office and told me that I did have cancer, I kind of looked at him, and one tear, just one, looked like a Hollywood movie though, for real. But one tear actually rolled down my face, and it was like, okay, now what do we do? Wow. And I just went on. And again, not worried. I was covered.
Wow.
Yes.
I don't, maybe I'm ready to hear that. What did you say?
I was covered.
That's strong, Angie.
And I'm here today.
I'm willing to share. So I'm a quadriplegic, and I was injured when I was 16, and mine is 14 years from where I am now. I haven't used it, but I had been in the hospital in Georgia. I'd gone down for pressure sore surgery, and it was like Gilligan's a 2-month tour. I was supposed to be home in December. I had complications, almost died. I didn't come home until April. And in June, when my attendant was putting my bra on, now mind you, I had been going monthly for Depo-Provera shots, and my OBGYN had never done a breast exam on me. Talk about learning lessons after that. And some of the discrimination that happens to different communities. In the disability community, it's unbelievable. It's a huge disparity. And so she felt it. I went, it was time for my scan. I went, now mind you, I just got home in April. I was just finally starting to work full time. Didn't even know if I was ever gonna be able to work. I'd gone through this horrific experience. And I hear them whispering. The next thing I know, they say, let's do a comprehensive. Then let's do a biopsy that day. And I'll never forget lying in bed, and I was resting, and it was Labor Day week. Well, I'm sorry, 4th of July. And on the Monday of 4th of July weekend, the doctor who never did the breast exam called me and said, you tested positive. Now, luckily it was very early, but I didn't have the words. And talk about saying, I have breast cancer. When I told my husband, he started crying. And that was the most painful thing for me to watch. And then when I told my closest friends, they looked at me and said, this has got to be a bad movie. You almost died. You've been in, this is 8 months, and now you have breast cancer. So, ironically, all the past 8 months, I was so sick I couldn't control anything. But for some reason, I don't want to say easy, because it wasn't easy, but I could actually control this. I could be me, I'm a control freak. I could plan the appointments, I could make the choices. I could get the information. And luckily, the doctor that had done all the bowel obstruction surgeries on me is actually a cancer surgeon. So when I rolled into her office, she's like, Sherry, no, come on now. You've got to be kidding me. I said, no, Dr. Augustine, no joke. So I knew I was in good care. It was caught very early, it was stage 1. But because I cannot feel heat, I couldn't have a lumpectomy because I couldn't get radiation. So I said, let's just do a mastectomy. I'm not a candidate for reconstruction. Luckily, I'm married to a man who said, I don't care as long as you're alive. Yeah. And off it went. And I wear a prosthetic bra and life went on. But getting the diagnosis was just, it knocked me for a loop because I thought I had been through it all. And I never realized how many people had breast cancer till I said it to the group, but then you start saying it. And I probably the other panelists can talk about this. The reaction is unreal. The peeps, oh, I have it, oh, my sister has it, oh, whatever. I was blown away by how many people have survived or know somebody that has breast cancer. It blew me over.
Thank you so much for sharing that experience. And I think that's probably a common reaction, even though yours is multiplied by, what you'd already been through for so many years, but, being blown away and just kind of being stopped in the tracks. But bringing back the point of support, once you say the words, realizing how many other people have already been affected. Anybody else want to share any thoughts about, or just your experience with either hearing the words or, as Angie said, finding the lump or realizing that the journey was beginning?
I have a different journey, if I can share that, as a caregiver. My daughter was diagnosed with lupus when she was 9 years old. And up until that time, our family had no medical, other than checkups and those things are scheduled. And so not being part of any medical system, it was very hard for us because we had to learn to ask the right questions, to be an advocate for our daughter, to find the correct specialists, find people that would talk to us and tell us what was going on, because they started out with mixed connective tissue disease and there was swelling and a lot of different things that were going on. So as a caregiver, I would advise people who are in that role to make sure you get your notebook and your tablets and your notes together, and that you have a series of questions when you go to the doctor about the diagnosis of your loved one, and maybe ask them for journal articles, ask them about the medication. So we had to do a lot of research. We also had to relieve some of the doctors who decided that their time was too valuable. They couldn't explain things to us or talk to us. And knowing that we had excellent insurance because my husband was in the military at the time, it was easy to dismiss them because I did not feel that my daughter was being taken care of by people who just had no bedside manner whatsoever. She was just the number of the next person. What I also want to say is, for people who are caregivers, I understand that caregiving for a spouse is like one of the hardest jobs you can have. But caregiving is caregiving. And so if you have family members or older relatives, or you have siblings, it can get more difficult when you have more people making decisions. But in my case, the daughter was, my husband and I, so we were the only ones that had to make decisions. But it lasted for 33 years, the actual caregiving role. And we learned a lot. I believe that because we tried to manage her health, that it did extend her life and the quality of her life for many years. And it can be done. And after her diagnosis, and I would just happen to mention it, even today, someone said, oh, my sister has lupus. And what she'd gone through, the amputation, organ replacements, and a lot of other things, that happened to her. And then my friend said, and in 2020, she was just, she had just gone through so much. I lost my daughter in 2016. But, there's a lot of things that all of us have to go through. And it's much more your attitude about doing all that you can. And I consider her survivorship for 33 years has really been a blessing to us to be able to enjoy her. And Thelma and I went to high school together. And I had a friend locally who had breast cancer and ovarian cancer, and she needed help. And I said, oh, I know someone. I know some place that you can go to Thelma's support group meeting. I think I've been back in the area for 2 years, and she loved it. And so before COVID, we came every month, and it was such a blessing to her and to me, being not having had cancer, but being able to hear about all of the changes in technology and the 25-year survivors and, all of the other things. So the support group helped in so many ways.
Thank you so much for sharing that different aspect of the journey. And, oftentimes many of us will find ourselves in that caregiver role. It's, not something that we choose, but we choose to accept it. And I'd like to just circle back to you for one moment and just ask, you talked about how you, definitely, asked for information, sought out information, but was there any process that you did that helped prepare yourself emotionally, spiritually or socially outside of the medical aspects? Was there anything that you and your spouse did to kind of prepare yourselves once you realized this was going to be a long-term journey?
The first shocking thing with us was when we were in Los Angeles in the Children's Hospital, that the other kids that were there was with their mom or their dad or their stepmom or dad's girlfriend. It seems that when a child has a critical illness, the parents don't stay together. So we were looking at each other like, is this going to happen to us? What caused this? Because if you have a child that is sick, they need a lot of attention. And we have 2 other children. And I remember my son saying to me, Mom, are you going to stay home tonight? We want to see you too, because every night my daughter had to go to the hospital. I went to the hospital and spent the night with her. So, and so up until she was 18, she went from that to the infusions and a lot of other things that went on. But I always never wanted her to be alone. Never. And so I would go to work during the day because certain things were going on, but every night I spent at the hospital that she was in there. But I think the thing that I did for myself is, and at the time, it wasn't meditation called. I was in constant prayer. I believed that she would be okay. I just didn't know when and how. The other thing is I did exercise. So you need to have some physical activity in your life. I mean, I've known of people being caregivers and the caregiver pass on and the patient is still here because they don't take the time out to take care of themselves, And I also believe you have a thirst for knowledge about what was going on. So you know the different phases of the disease, how it might manifest itself. You're not so surprised. I needed to know so I could explain to her, and ask her if she would allow the service to be done, and she did. And so eventually my daughter actually had 2 kidney transplants, a knee replacement, a partial knee replacement. And we went through all of these phases. She was taking one treatment and her hair came out. And she could go to school and she didn't want to go. And so I asked my son if it was okay if I cut my hair, because I didn't want him fighting at school because someone talked about my hair. And he said, sure, Mom. And when I did that, it was to me a solidarity with her. And then she was okay with it, but I said, don't go any place without earrings. And so it just made it better for her to get through those formative years. She graduated from college, it was just that lupus come in phases. You have crises and you're up again. And we just had to get used to, the changes each day. We had to be very flexible. And I'm amazed that I had a career because she was my priority, and she always knew that she was during that time. But I think the caregiver really has to take care of themselves. You know, you can't give your all. You're not here to help the person that you really want to help, and that's mentally or physically.
So yes, self-care is a part of being a caregiver. I think we all have to remind ourselves of that, because you'll give and give and give and give, and then you're empty, and you have no more to be there for your loved ones.
And it leads to resentment sometimes. So people have to also be careful that if they're caregiving, they're doing it because they want to and there's a need. Because if you are resentful and you're taking care of someone, the person you're taking care of can actually feel that. And so you need to be sincere in what you're doing. And again, if you have siblings, if you can share the load, then that would be very helpful too.
And I saw something recently, the 5, hard things for people to say. I remember 2 of them. I'm trying to remember the second one, but I think the first one was things that are hard for people to say. I'm wrong. That's something that's hard for people to say. I need help. That's something that's hard for people to say. And the third one was Worcestershire sauce. Did I say it right? Worcestershire sauce. Sometimes you have to inject some.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. Laughter is very good.
Because I don't know how to say it.
Worcestershire.
Things that are hard for people to say. And I think that's part of the journey is, humor is healing as well. Community is healing, but being able to find things that bring you joy and bring a smile to our faces. I wanted to circle back to our survivors with their lived experiences around the treatment aspects of it. I'm not going to go into the treatment per se, but as was said, it's important to be knowledgeable, to ask questions, make sure that you get the answers to the questions in ways that are going to be useful to you. But we know that these treatments, and my physicians have said this to me, that sometimes the treatments can make you feel worse than the disease sometimes. And so we know that treatments have side effects. So I'd ask for our survivors to share, if you could share what, as Thelma has shared with her journey, the type of breast cancer that you had, if you care to share the stage at which it was diagnosed. I know, Sherry, you said you were stage 1, but what were a couple of side effects that maybe surprised you, and how did you deal with those? So we'll just go around and ask each person to share just about your diagnosis and a side effect that maybe you weren't prepared for, and how did you deal with it? Who wants to start?
Okay, I'll start.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I was diagnosed many, many years ago, and I was very young, and I was surprised at my diagnosis. I don't know why, because my mother had breast cancer, and I watched her go through her journey. So when I found the lump, I was like, I mentioned to a friend of mine, and she was like, well, Anthea, you need to go see a doctor. I'm like, oh yeah, right. So I did go see a doctor, and because I was so young, they kept telling me, oh, it's nothing, it's nothing, it's nothing. So I had some tests done, and I remember him calling me into his office, and he just started talking, and about these methods of treatments, and I need to go see this, and he never really mentioned that I didn't, well, maybe I didn't hear him say breast cancer. And I remember us leaving the office, and we looked at each other, and it's like, did he say what I thought he just said? And she's like, yeah. And I had my sister circle and brother circle around me, and they were all like stunned and like, oh, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do that. And everything that the doctor said that could possibly go wrong went wrong. I had a bilateral mastectomy. with reconstruction, tram wrap flap reconstruction. And of course, the reconstruction wasn't successful. I think I had like 12 hours of surgery and still I wasn't recuperating well. So they had to put me back in because it didn't take, and it was just a lot. I don't know if I was prepared or not. I think I just didn't focus on it. I was just focused, I was like, I gotta get through this. So, because I reflect on it now, that if they told me everything and I really paid attention to what they told me, I probably wouldn't have done anything.
Wow.
I probably like, nope. I think one time I did, after like the third or fourth surgery, I was just like, enough's enough. They were trying to put a shunt in my neck or something, and he couldn't, the tech couldn't get it in. And I was just like, you know what? I'm not doing this. I got off the table. So they had to call the doctor in to calm me down. I was like, look, I've been a real good patient. I've done everything you don't need to do. And I've had enough. I've just had enough. He said, I was wondering when, because you come into my office, you're all smiles, everything is all good. And it's just like, that day I was just like, I'm not doing this. Enough's enough. And he talked to me. I mean, you have to trust your doctors. You have to like your doctors. Because I remember he had a nice leather blue chair in his office. And I told him, if I get through this, would he give me the chair? He didn't give me the chair, but I think he was like, okay. Only you would come in here and notice my chair and want it. So I trusted my doctors. I think he had a good bedside manner, which you doctors really should. Because I had a couple of others that I didn't, and I was just like, I'm not going back to see this guy. The bedside and I trusted in him. And after I went through everything, I started looking up and trying. I was like, oh, he was really a good doctor because he prepared me for everything. So, no, this is here in Washington, D.C., George Washington University.
But I think that key is that trust was built.
Yes.
And something you said it really quickly, but he said when you had that response, it's like I was waiting.
Yeah,
like,
waiting for me to, because it was just like this girl is just coming in here like, oh, everything is fine, because that's what I needed to get through it. Mm-hmm. But that last cert, I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore.
And I think that's part of managing care is having that collaboration with your provider so that you can take charge and understand, there's some things that you can make choices about, and sometimes the choice is no. And to have a collaboration with your provider so that you can make that an informed choice.
I had that experience, luckily doing the full mastectomy, there was an option of taking a drug. And the chance of recurrence for me was only 25%. So I was lucky in that respect. But the drug would have only given me a 12.5% of it not recurring. I have no proof, but I really believe it's from all the radiation that I got when I was sick before. There's no cancer in my family. Well, soon to find out. But one of the side effects of the drug, and I talked to the doctor about it, was bone density issues. Well, I've been sitting in a chair for 30-some years. I already had serious bone density issues. I said, I'm not doing anything. I'm not. And one thing I want to bring up that that Thelma and this work group has done is bringing the experts that have given me even more information, which I did do, but some of it I wouldn't have done. Always get a second opinion.
Yes.
Always make sure your doctor answers your questions.
Yes.
And then it's helped me with family members that have had cancer. What is the fear of recurrence? I didn't have that, but my husband does, because he has type B, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Having a whole talk about fear of recurrence from Kristen Brissett, who had it twice, that helped me help my husband. So this group doesn't just help you, it helps It's helped me and my family members.
Yes, yes.
My sister got liver cancer, very, very suddenly, very severe. And Thelma supported me every day. After she died, Thelma sent me a note every single day for a year. And where do you find that? You don't find that anywhere. I mean, I view this group as a sisterhood. And I've learned so much, not just for me, but for other people, where I feel like I've gained expertise, not just in what I went through, but to help other people based on the people that she gets to come. They're second to none. We are so lucky to have the experts that come and speak to us. Top-notch people like Alejandra, people that are doing cutting-edge research. You know, it helps me out my family. I have multiple family members that have terrible cancers. And I think too many people do. And I think these meetings, they help me, but in a way, they've helped me even more deal with my loved ones. So I just want to add that there's a ripple effect. It's coming to these support groups for myself, but it's also I leave. You know, I'll never forget this. We had, he's from the World Bank, I love him. The doctor.
Dr. Kennedy.
Dr. Kennedy, I adore that man. God forbid I ever get another cancer, I'm going to him. I swear, I don't care how old he is. I have a crush on him, I hope you're listening. But one thing he came and he spoke to this group. And he said, you know, eating well, diet, exercise, all these things. Everyone calls them, you know, maintaining your health, healthy, you know. He said, it's not wellness, it's treatment. And I went home because my husband, his cancer is, well, cancer light, there's no such thing as cancer light. I don't want to say that to anyone, but he fears, you know, he got his lump out and he's fine. But he has an intense fear of recurrence. And so I said, Tony, you know what? All the things you're doing with your diet, your exercise, it's treatment, not wellness. That flipped a switch in his head.
Oh, good.
That made such a difference. And just hearing that from him, and so many other experts that have come and spoken about grief and other things. I know that's a little off the question, but I think it sort of goes by sharing our experiences and what we've been through, but also getting information that helps us in our broader communities.
And I wanted to kind of use that as a segue. Thelma, how much time do we have?
I thought all night.
No.
It's 8:01, I guess we probably should wrap it up. And because we wanted to Q&A.
Okay. So wrap up with about 10 minutes? Or?
Yes.
Okay. Well, and that's what I wanted to ask. I wanted to jump off because there are a lot of great questions here. And maybe just bring people in just to kind of share briefly. But I wanted to jump off of what you said, the whole point about the support system and finding ways to cope. So I'll throw it to, I think, is it Sylvia?
Yes.
Okay. If you could, would you be willing to share a bit about your support system? You know, where did you find the greatest support?
I was my mom's caregiver for about 3 years. She was diagnosed with colon cancer. So she was living in Baltimore, and most of my siblings, they all lived in Baltimore except for one in North Carolina. And so I was in Virginia at the time, so I relocated her to Virginia. And it was the hardest part is just seeing the strongest woman who raised 5 children, single-handed, sick like that. And it was just hard watching her, but I would do it over and over again, yes. And I had great support, especially with my cousins and my siblings as well. But just going through that and then years later, probably 5 years later, finding out that I was diagnosed with cancer. And the way I had just had a mammogram a couple months before. And just one night doing a self-exam on myself, I found a lump, and my daughter-in-law told me where to go. And I met with the doctor, and she told me, yes, there is a lump here, and I want to send you over for a mammogram. And she asked when was my last mammogram, and I told her a year ago, because I knew if I said it was just recently, I wasn't going to get another mammogram. I knew that. And, but I asked for forgiveness for that little. And I went, and that's when the breast that I was there for, the right breast, wasn't the one. They said, we found nothing in the right, but we do see something in the left. Wow. Yeah, so I had to have a biopsy, and it did come back positive. And it showed that I was between a 0 and a 1. And when they did the biopsy, they said, we're going to have to do surgery. And just the way that the doctor, she met up with me that morning, the surgeon, and she said, they're getting you all together, but I'm going to meet with all of your siblings and your children. And man, they all, well, one had already spoken to her several times, but when they got to meet her, they all came, sis, you in great hands. You know, you got someone great here. And Dr. Opon she was amazing. And when the results came back after the surgery, it was no cancer in the results. So I didn't do chemo. I refused to do chemo, and I refused to do radiation. I just did my pill. I had my pill, and I never opened them to this day. I still have the bottle. Yeah, because the side effects, they're talking about hot flashes.
That's it.
I'm having other kind of worse than hot. They were steaming. So what would I have once I took those pills? You know, as soon as somebody come up, I'll be like, shoot, what? You know, so I just prayed on it and prayed on it. But I do tell everyone, you just do it once a week or something. It doesn't matter. You have to be your own. You have to be on yourself, your own, because if you're not, no one else is. And it's important.
And you brought in something, one of the last couple of questions that we have is about that faith aspect. And everyone is different, and people may apply some tenets from their faith to their health journey. Some people don't. It's a very personal choice. But can anybody just say what worked for you? Again, it may not work for the next person sitting next to you, but in terms of how your faith may have played a role in your coping. I know, Ms. Angie, you've talked already about your faith from day one.
But I need to say this so that when the doctor told me that I had the cancer and we did the surgery, we had kind of opted to do a lumpectomy. It was like right before my 41st birthday. And I found out 2 days before my birthday. And that was on a Monday. And they had set me up for surgery that Friday to do the lumpectomy. Because he said, well, you're so young, you probably just want to keep your breast. I was like, okay, well, yes. But Tuesday morning, God had a whole nother plan. And he showed up and he told me that that breast had to go. And I immediately called the doctor
and told him, I've changed my mind. You've got to take it off. It has to go. And then I had to see the surgeon to do the mastectomy. And I did the transplant, yeah. And I didn't look back.
Because you have nothing but to look
Look
forward.
forward. Grateful, just grateful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just looking forward.
Because when he told me and I listened, and I do believe and I know in my heart, if I had not listened to that voice, God's voice that morning, I wouldn't be here today. I know that. But I'm here with you guys.
For me, it was action. I'm an action person. I mean, I do have faith, but I'm an action person. And I was diagnosed in July, and in August, my sister-in-law went for her mammogram asked me in her office, said, what's that? And I said, oh, it's for making strides against breast cancer. She says, what's that? She grabs the flyers. And so here it is. She gives it to me, and I found out about the American Cancer Society Making Strides Against Breast Cancer walk in October, and I threw myself into it in August. And that was the beginning of a 12-year throwing myself into it, then throwing us all into it. And all of it wasn't taking it out of it.
And it is Sherry Dinkinson Trump, JD. She is a Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund Support Group Ambassador, a breast cancer survivor, and the co-founder of Happy on Quills LLC. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Sherry. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Our second panelist is Ms. Sylvia Jackson. And Sylvia is another ambassador as well as a breast cancer survivor herself. And next, someone who's known to us very well, and if I mispronounce it, please correct me, Anthea Peters, also a breast cancer ambassador and survivor. And then we also have Ms. Scarlett Small, MPA, who's an ambassador, who has been a caregiver and a former member of the board of directors for the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund.
Thank you.
And our last panelist is someone who's always around and supporting, Miss Angie Walker, another ambassador who's always getting things done. It's a pleasure to know and see Angie at these events. And she's also not only an ambassador, a volunteer, but a survivor as well. So thank you all so much for joining us and bringing your expertise to the table tonight. So give me one moment, and I'm gonna kick us off with our first question for the panel. And we'll make it a little informal rather than me calling on each one. We just want people to chime in. So if you wanna build on something that another panelist has shared, just feel free to chime in. I'm just getting my questions queued up here, and we will get started. All right, so I'll just open this first question up to the entire panel. And as everyone, as I said, has their own lived experience and personal journey with breast cancer, we want to hear from you looking back. Your journey is far from over, but at this point where you are right now, if you look back, what do you wish you would know then? What do you wish you know now that you wish you had known when your journey started? So looking back, what is it that you know now that you wish you had known when your journey first started? Who wants to lead us off?
I'll lead off by saying, my name is Sherry, and the 14th anniversary of the Breast Cancer Fund coincides with my breast cancer anniversary, so it's easy to remember. What I wish I knew then, that I knew that now, is a really simple answer, that this support group existed. I am a quadriplegic, and there are not many individuals that are women with spinal cord injury that are also breast cancer survivors. So I felt very alone. And I think knowing that there was a support group, even if they didn't have people with spinal cord injuries, that I had people here that are in this room that have become best friends and family. And additionally, Thelma, it winds up, had a sister with a spinal cord injury. And she has a special interest and has a November meeting every year on breast cancer and disability. So if I had known that, I think I wouldn't have felt so alone in my journey, and she's connected me. Over the years, that November meeting has created connections for me that have just blown that area of my life wide open so I can help others. But for me, it's a very simple answer. Unfortunately, I had a lot of experience with the medical system, so I wasn't afraid to ask questions. I knew I needed other opinions. So the medical part wasn't as hard as the support part.
Thank you, Sherry, for sharing that. And we'll open it up to our other panelists, something that you know today that you wish you had known when your journey first began.
Well, I'd like to just chime in on what Sherry spoke of, and just knowing that there was a Thelma D. Jones breast cancer group, that just brought a lot of just warmth to my heart, because I had no idea what I was going through or what was going to happen. But thankfully, going through the Georgetown Lombardi group, they connected me with Thelma, and that helped a lot. So just knowing that, and just being spread out to so much, and so many great friends, ambassadors, and entertainers involved, that's just brought a lot to me. And it just warmed me up a lot, where I feel secure, I feel good, and I know if someone comes up with anything, I'll run it by Thelma, and she doesn't mind sharing or reaching out to find out a helpful answer for me. So it's been great, and I enjoy every bit of it. Thank you.
Anybody want to add on to, and this could even be a book, what I know now that I wish I knew then. Anybody want to add a chapter? Yes.
Okay. What I learned was, at first, when I was initially diagnosed, that starts the journey. And I thought the journey would end when I was over with chemotherapy and all that, but the journey lives on. I think I'm on the second half where, I can meet friends. Develop friendships with other ladies who've had breast cancer, and there's a bond that we all share that I don't share with all of my other friends. It's something about it that ties us all together, going through that journey. And that's it. The journey continues.
I think that's an important thing for people to know at the beginning, that the journey continues in ways expected and some
unexpected.
Unexpected, absolutely. Well, let's kind of switch gears a little bit and ask about just people to really share their experience, because sometimes I think in support groups, if we can hear things that we're experiencing reflected back from someone else, sometimes it's just so relieving to hear someone else say the words that maybe we didn't have the words to say. So we'd like to talk a bit just about the reaction that you all as survivors had when you first heard the words, those horrible words, "You have breast cancer." The diagnosis can be very overwhelming, but if anyone is willing and brave enough to share, what was your reaction when you heard those words, and realizing that many other people had the same reaction and just haven't had the opportunity to even verbalize it. So if anybody just wants to share, if you can think back what your reaction was.
I can say when I actually first found Thelma, my reaction. And I was not worried. I didn't cry, I didn't fall apart. I was just even keeled. It was a holiday weekend. And it's like, I have things to do this weekend, so we cannot worry about this. So we just carried on, did what we had to do that weekend. And I did not think about that lump until that Tuesday morning when I went to the doctor's office. So, but it took about a month, of course, of going through all the tests and making sure everything was confirmed, and the lumpectomy and the biopsies. And the day that the doctor called me in the office and told me that I did have cancer, I kind of looked at him, and one tear, just one, looked like a Hollywood movie though, for real. But one tear actually rolled down my face, and it was like, okay, now what do we do?
Wow.
And I just went on. And again, not worried. I was covered.
Wow.
Yes.
Maybe everybody didn't hear that. What did you
So
say?
I was covered.
That's strong, Angie.
And here today.
I'm willing to share. So I'm a quadriplegic, and I was injured when I was 16, and mine is 14 years from where I am now. But I had been in Georgia. I'd gone down for pressure sore surgery, and it was like Gilligan's Island. A 2-month tour. I was supposed to be home in December. I had complications, almost died, and didn't come home until April. And in June, when my attendant was putting my bra on, now mind you, I had been going monthly for Depo-Provera shots, and my OBGYN had never done a breast exam on me. Talk about learning lessons after the fact. And some of the discrimination that happens to different communities. In the disability community, it's unbelievable. There's a huge disparity. And so she felt it. I went, it was time for my scan. I went, now mind you, I just got home in April. I was just finally starting to work full time. Didn't even know if I was ever gonna be able to work. Had gone through this horrific experience. And I hear them whispering. The next thing I know, they say, let's do a comprehensive. Then let's do a biopsy that day. And I'll never forget lying in bed, and I was resting, and it was Labor Day week. I'm sorry, 4th of July. And on the Monday of 4th of July weekend, the doctor who never did the breast exam called me and said, you tested positive. Now, luckily it was very early, but I didn't have the words. And talk about saying, I have breast cancer. When I told my husband, he started crying. And that was the most painful thing for me to watch. And then when I told my closest friends, they looked at me and said, this has got to be a bad movie. You almost died. You've been in, this is 8 months, and now you have breast cancer. So, ironically, all the past 8 months, I was so sick I couldn't control anything. But for some reason, I don't want to say easy, because it wasn't easy, but I could actually control this. I could be me. I'm a control freak. I could plan the appointments. I could make the choices. I could get the information. And luckily, the doctor that had done all the bowel obstruction surgeries on me is actually a cancer surgeon. So when I rolled into her office, she's like, Sherry, no, come on now. You've got to be kidding me. I said, no, Dr. Augustine, no joke. So I knew I was in good care. It was caught very early, it was stage 1. But because I cannot feel heat, I couldn't have a lumpectomy. because I couldn't get radiation. So I said, let's just do a mastectomy. I'm not a candidate for reconstruction. Luckily, I'm married to a man who said, I don't care as long as you're alive. And off it went. And I wear a prosthetic bra, and life went on. But getting that diagnosis was just, it knocked me for a loop because I thought I had been through it all. And I never realized how many people had breast cancer till I said it to the group, but then you start saying it, and I probably the other panelists can talk about this. The reaction is unreal. The peeps, oh, I have it, oh, my sister has it, oh, whatever. I was blown away by how many people have survived or know somebody that has breast cancer. It blew me over.
Thank you so much for sharing that experience. And I think that's probably a common reaction, even though yours is multiplied by, what you'd already been through for so many years, but, being blown away and just kind of being stopped in the tracks. But bringing back the point of support, once you say the words, realizing how many other people have already been affected. Does anybody else want to share any thoughts about, or just your experience with either hearing the words or, as Angie said, finding the lump or realizing that the journey was beginning?
I have a different journey, if I can share that, as a caregiver. My daughter was diagnosed with lupus when she was 9 years old. And up until that time, our family had no medical, other than, checkups, and those things are scheduled. And so not being...
It wasn't taking it out of it. I was passionate about the cause. I always hated raising money, but not for this. And over the 12 years, with the help of joining up with the TJ strategist, Thelma Jones, we raised $100,000 for breast cancer research. And that was for many years, that was my time of year. It made me feel like I was giving back, that I was doing something, and that I was helping others. And the feeling of being out on the mall with all these families and all of these people just filled me. It was almost out of body experience. It was emotional, and especially the first time. And I got to go up on stage and give the kickoff speech, and I got to speak at a luncheon. They did an article, and from there, now I'm a passionate advocate for women's health, and especially mammography and pap smears. And I haven't given up, and I'm going to be on the panel. And my view is now I have to take my experience, because I'm a minority with a minority. Most spinal cord injured people are men. So if you take the minority that are women, then you take that minority and you say cancer. There's still to this day, even after the ADA, no lips on mammograms, accessible mammography. You name it, doing pap smears in someone's chair. So I've been a staunch advocate, and I won't shut up about it. And Thelma knows, and she introduced me to a key person in that arena, and it led to a whole other part of my life. So anyway, it's been a gift, which I think is strange for people to hear, but I really think it's been a gift.
And action, it's not an either or. It's what is coming out of you, and you're bringing that to the journey. And however it comes out, it's going to help somebody else, be it through fundraising or just sharing a quiet moment with someone. I think that the whole point is that people who have the lived experiences are there to share with others, because everybody's at a different point on their journey. And I think that's where we want to wrap up tonight. I'd like to just do a round robin and with our panelists to share. Yes.
I wanted to share here. My name is Gloria, and I think I've been around since day one, when Thelma started breast cancer support group. Well, late one night, probably about 6 years ago, I got a call from a friend who is a part teacher. And he said, Gloria, I need your help. His wife had breast cancer, and she did not want to tell anyone. They had been going through it about 3 months. She had not shared it with a single family member and refused to allow him to share it with a single family member. So they literally had no support. And he said, I can't take it anymore. So what was a work event was coming up for him. He had an opportunity to travel and he wanted to take that. Okay, and then they had the conversation. And she told him that I was the only person he was willing, that she would allow him to share it with. So when he called me, I said, okay, not a problem. I'll pack my suitcase and come and just stay. As long as you need me, and I'm going to come early so I can get the hang of the game, and then I'll stay later. So anyway, this is how I start my caregiving. But my first call is to Thelma. This is what I'm walking into. But mind you, I had some knowledge to start with. So Thelma goes over the checklist with me, and I'm getting all of my numbers in line and making a plan. And I'm not the kind of person that undertakes a task where I don't share. I mean, one of my greatest gifts is getting people to latch on to whatever it is I want to do. Yes. So, but you know, I'm walking into this. I knew his wife quite well because I was the only person she'd allowed to go into her linen drawer. I could go into her china cabinet. Nobody else could do these things but me. So I knew what I was dealing with. But what I really want to say is participating in this over the years, I was ready for this, you know? And then at night, since I can't call anybody else, who do I call? I've got the cancer number right here in my phone, and I call, and you get the best service, and then they can refer you to 2 or 3 other people. So you've got all of these other people to talk to. So I just felt like I needed to share that. And, you know, sometimes we'll say, well, I don't have cancer. Nobody in my family has cancer. But there is a reason that you need to get information, you need to process information, because you don't know what's going to happen along the way, where you will be able to use that information, and just the confidence of knowing that there is somebody that knows a lot about something that can help you. On my website.
Well, I think that's where we wanted to close out and just give everybody a chance to just share very briefly what the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Support Group has meant to you. You know, from, you know, getting information, everybody shared a lot tonight. If we could just kind of close out, as this is an anniversary month for the support group, 14 years in the making. I think it's a great way to close out our discussion tonight, and then to move to wrap up the program is to understand that Thelma is definitely a crown jewel, a queen bee. I call her the mayor of Southwest, a former neighbor. And she really is dedicated to this work, and I think that comes across. So if everybody can just share one thing or role that kicked us off at the beginning, saying how the work started at the World Bank. Thelma jumped in there, as she always does, and made the work even greater, and then built this off of that model. So I think it's incumbent on us to be part of that journey. I think we use that word a lot tonight, but the support group itself has grown over the 14 years, and it's been on its own journey. So maybe if we can ask our panelists to share, and I'll ask Alejandra to chime in too, as a longtime supporter, what you'll do to a role that you may have, one thing that you can do to ensure that the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund support group is sustained. We'll start with Sylvia, we'll just go around.
Hopefully I won't be working too much longer to become a big part of it too. Because, and all of you guys know, Thelma is like our Jack in the Box. When that music stops playing, she's popping. And I mean, sometimes Thelma's out here doing 3 events a day. For some reason, she doesn't say no to anyone. I mean, and you know, you can only stretch yourself but so far. And God knows we need you. So as we get older, we just can't stretch ourselves as far. So just pull on us, And we just have to do, I love to call out for work. Yes. So, I mean, this group has been a big part of my life, because when I got breast cancer, my first cousin got it. She got it 4 months before me. And just sharing everything that I've learned from this group with her or others, and even people at work. And my previous job, I would have Thelma come through, and I would try to get support and do a breast cancer walk and things like that. And yeah, and I even had my grandnieces and nephews, they came. I mean, everybody here has been there. And it's just whatever I can get and pull together, because it's a grassroots organization, and it's totally different from a Susan B. Komen and things like that. So any type of support and help I can give, I just want my friends and family to know, and coworkers to be a part of it, because she's doing an amazing job. And people say, you said breast cancer, but I saw her doing this and that too. I mean, doing it all. So it's been a big help, and it made me bring a lot of males to the front of realizing you get breast cancer too. So, you know, it's the big talk around my family and friends, because they never knew that. So, and I didn't know until I got involved with Thelma's breast cancer group. So I'm happy. I'm happy being here, and happy knowing I can help when I can.
Okay, my story was when I started with Thelma in attending her meetings in 2014, my daughter loves soaps and things. She was making those. And I mentioned that to Thelma, and she would buy 10 or 15 bars of soap or something and use for her gift bag. So they gave my daughter a little job that she looked forward to making for Miss Thelma. And that, I was so grateful for her, for my daughter to have a source for her goods, and that she would work on that during the week. And so in the transition, everything else happened, and I was still attending the meetings. And then Thelma asked me to take some notes. Okay, for this one meeting, I'll take some notes. And then it was like, well, you know, we have a vacancy on my board and I need I'm retired, I don't need another job, but it was Miss Thelma. So here I am, part of the board, part of her food share program. And I actually gone to substitute for her, you know, to some other meeting. But I do it because I believe in what she does. I really truly believe in what she does, and she does it from the heart. And coming from the same hometown and everything else, it just makes it extra special. So I'm here tonight. When she did what she did for my daughter, she had no idea, but it just meant a lot to me. And now she has my grandkids going to jazz on Friday nights, and you know, and so everybody knows Miss Thelma by my name. So tonight it's like, where are you going, Lola? And I said, I'm going to go and get a meeting with Miss Thelma. So it was okay. So that was it. So as long as I can support her in that way, and it, you know, then I will continue to do that.
Just piggybacking on what Sylvia said, Thelma does a lot. And I usually try to get to the meetings so that I can kind of help set up and just to take some of the load off of her. But what I'm so truly impressed with is that she's the go-to. If there's someone that needs some assistance as far as cancer or whatever, I have to go tell them. One of my coworkers was diagnosed, and I mean, they called her at work and told her that she was, you know, had breast cancer. And she came straight to me, and I said, well, we cried. And I said, well, next thing, we call it Thelma. It's okay. And Thelma was a true, I mean, she's just a big help to her. And she still talks about Thelma. So I hope she don't mind. You know, but we're here to help. As long as you're helping, we're
Thelma, at the end of this year, I will be retired.
So I'm all yours. Don't forget my number. I'll call you back. I might not answer the phone, but I'm gonna call you back.
But you know, we also get together on some social events, like Cecily that was entertaining someplace, and she give all of us a call, and we just go to support, you know, her as well. And so it's not just this; it extends, you know, beyond just the cancer. There's life beyond cancer, and that's what we also do. Some of those types of social things as well. So.
That's that camaraderie, that familyhood. I would say sisterhood.
Sisterhood, yes, absolutely.
That's
right.
Yes,
And you gotta have that. I'll just share real quick. You know, I think, like I said, like Thelma said, one of the earliest support groups I can remember was just up and across the street. We brought one of our very young researchers now. Her child is probably going to college now. It's, you know, but like everyone's saying, you know, making sure that this program continues. So when I see a text from Thelma, because I may not be able to answer it right away, but I'm gonna make sure to read it. And, you know, when she calls, if I'm available, to make sure that I'm coming and leveraging any resources and opportunities that I have. And I didn't say that Thelma recently joined us at the Howard University Cancer Center as one of our new community council members, and we call our council the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council. And we put that together. It says this is our Jedi Council. So if you follow anything in sci-fi, you know that the Jedi are the ones who are the brave warriors and protecting their communities. And so Thelma has joined us in that effort as we try to make sure that our local community, and even beyond that, is protected as much as possible from cancer, but especially from the inequities that people experience where they don't get good care, they don't get access to screening and high quality treatment. So Thelma when Thelma calls or texts, or she'll email me, and if I don't see the email, she'll text me. If I don't see the text, she'll call me. Make sure to respond and be there to make sure this program continues.
Also want to add that I'm here for anything you need, and I think you support everyone, and I feel supported in so many different ways, and I think they're always giving. And I just want to make sure that you know that we're here to give back in any way we can. And I hope we feel that they can help you all navigate to our families. It's not our families and friends.
So I'm gonna be the shameless one. Money. As little as you can. I make a recurring donation every month. It's not big. Thelma sends a personal thank you. And the one thing you can also do for Thelma, that we're all busy, is I give her a lot of feedback. When I forward the newsletter, when I see an article that I think is just fantastic, when she does something or she asks me for something, I do it right away. So I want to be prompt. I want to thank her for what she does. But money is the ticket, unfortunately. And when you're a grassroots organization, that's your biggest challenge. Thelma needs an assistant. She needs all of our help, but she can't do this alone. And she's, been resourceful. When it starts to get big and grow and all that is good, but that's too much for one person. So I will make the plea, so she doesn't have to be the shameless one. But do what you can. I don't give a lot, but you make your choices. And I believe in so much of what she's done for me. I give what I can. I tell her why it's smaller than I wish it could be, but at least it's something and it adds up at the end of the year. And if it pays for, whatever it does, I'm gonna do it. And I would encourage anybody online or anybody here, even if it's $5, go to your PayPal now and make a recurring donation every month. And it's money well spent. You don't have to research the organization. You've heard the testimony. Right?
So with that,
I'll add to what Sherry said. I had an opportunity this week to recommend the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund for a contribution. A friend of mine passed away, and his wife was looking for, he was a former cancer patient. And his wife was looking for an organization to make a contribution to. And I recommended the Thelma D. Jones Cancer Fund, and she accepted that. So I would also encourage us to just think about opportunities and to spread the word as much as we can, because this fund touches people that we know and can go out and touch.
Exactly.
Ms. Lorraine still on the out, I can't see. And I couldn't tell if there were any comments on any of the platforms or not, or questions. But I know we have just a few more items that we wanted to get to on the agenda. I don't think this is a Zoom. I don't think I see any questions. I don't see. I think she had to drop off. But I think in the interest of time, what we'd like to do is to just thank our panelists, first of all, for coming and sharing their insights and all the experiences that were shared. As I said, sometimes if you just hear somebody verbalize something that you are going through, but you haven't been able to find the words, it can help you. So I just want to thank everyone and thank Thelma for inviting me out to be a moderator again. I always enjoy when I have the opportunity to do that. I'm just checking the agenda for tonight. And I know, Thelma, there's several people that you want to make sure are thanked. If you want to do that now, and then.
Surely, and I have, thank you, Carla, and I thank you for always accepting my invitation. It encouraged me to continue to ask you to do things. So I have several announcements that I will make really quickly. On next Tuesday, April the 23rd, I will be doing a presentation on breast cancer entitled Breast Cancer Not for Women Only at 7 p.m. for the Kiwanis group. These flyers have been going out regularly, so I hope you will log on. One of the partnerships that I have is with VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond. That, thanks to Alejandra, I have connected with VCU, and the head of their center is Dr. Shepherd. And she has been our guest speaker for our September meeting for 2 consecutive years in a row, and she has agreed to be our guest speaker the 3rd year. That September is also my birthday month, and it will be the month that we will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of the organization becoming a full-fledged organization. So please tune in and to listen to Dr. Vanessa Shepherd. They are also working on improving breast cancer outcomes and treatment experience studies. So 2 different studies. There are flyers over on the back, and we send these out periodically on our distribution list. Thanks to Sergio Jimenez, who is my webmaster. So if you're wondering how all these things get out, that's my help. Thank you. There are flyers about my organization that I would encourage you to get one and share it. There's one that I left over just the past weekend. I was in Atlanta, Georgia for a speaking engagement on the link between breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And I know Scarlett mentioned that with one of the people that you have started bringing to the organization. Also, even though we don't have very much money, the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund is being a sponsor for the opening of the Southwest Community Garden, which does a lot of work to ensure that people have individual plots, but more specifically, the garden reaches out to our historically underserved communities. So we are one of the sponsors for that. And we also made a donation for them to engage a chef to do food distributions from the items that are grown in the garden. So we are talking about organic food and teaching people how to grow healthy food and avoiding all of the McDonald's and all of that. So I would encourage you to consider that. Our next meeting will be May, I think it's 19th, Wednesday, May 19th. It's always the 3rd Wednesday night. And our guest speaker is Jennifer Byers, who is the executive director for Life with Cancer and over from Virginia. Jennifer will be returning for a repeat invitation. And also, I mentioned earlier, there is a copy of the Southwester at your seat. If you have not read the article already entitled Southwest Neighborhood Assembly Honors Local Leader Charles Chucks Hicks, We celebrated that during Black History Month. And as you know, one of the things that the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund has done for nearly 10 years is to host a Black History program where the focus is on men and men's health, where Sylvia was mentioning, that's one of the ways how many people have learned that men get breast cancer as well. But that article was written by Isaac Welch, who is a handsome young man sitting over there, who is a 21 graduate of Howard University with a degree in journalism and poli-sci. So, and yes, you know. And he was the head of the Hill, he was the editor of the Hill Right, which is Howard University's popular newspaper. So Isaac will be writing up the article tonight about this for the Southwestern. So thank you so much, and please take heed to these announcements.
Thank you so much. So I think we're at the point of closing. I just want to give some special thanks to our host for tonight, St. Augustine's Episcopal Church. We've already recognized Mr. Welch, Howard University grad, and our tech extraordinaire for making this hybrid activity happen, and of course our great panelists. And thank you all again, but we want to bring our highlight back to close us out, and that is Ms. Cecily. She has stayed with us, and we said, how are people going to support Thelma? Cecily's always here when she can to support Thelma, and thank you so much again for being here, and we look forward to hearing your last rendition of Acceptance.
Thank you.